Hello and welcome back to the Demis Hellen channel. I'm going to show you a little trick, so it's going to be a bit of a shorter video, but a little trick on how we can make pads sound a little bit more alive. And this works for drones as well, so if you want those sort of like monotonous cinematic sounds at the beginning of tracks or in breakdowns, this will also work in the same sort of process. So we've got a little bit of a preset here called No Time. It's one of the rejected presets from the pack that I released, so these are going to be available on Patreon at some point, so this one will be, but there's going to be a few more. That's going to be an exclusive pack, and we're going to create a little bit of movement in this, so let's just listen to it first. So you can hear there, in fact, let's make that filter nice and cut off. You can hear there's tons and tons of harmonic richness in this sound, and it's a really good sound, but it got replaced with another one. This one, add a little bit more movement. You can see I've started with the Chaos Lorenz there on free. It's at 0.08 Hertz. It's moving around very slowly, and it's automating this wavetable position here. It's actually automating 3 locations. So the x-axis is just that wavetable, and the y is automating the bend and the wavetable of the first oscillator there. So you can see it's moving, creating a little bit of movement. You can see the waveforms moving a smidge. But we're going to add a few different textures in here and just wait for the end for the bonus, because this is probably the best one to simulate a little bit of analog drift. Okay, so in the first one, we can do this in both actually. In the warp section, we're going to go to the PWM, and we're just going to make a nice simple LFO. So we don't have a simple LFO there. Let's just get back to the good old triangle. There we are. And I'm going to drag this onto the warp mode for this. And I'm just going to drag it just away. So about 89–90% there. And what this is going to do is it's going to automate the PWM, so the pulse width modulation. Let's slow that down. I'm going to switch it to Hertz. And I'm going to switch this to mono, so it just continuously circles around no matter what note is pressed. So now you can hear like the pad is moving around and getting a bit thinner and then a bit thicker. So I know it's all on one ear there, but you can hear that's what's happening. So we're going to use the alt warp on here as well, and you'll hear the difference a lot more now. So let's just make it move a little bit less. Let's change the position like this. So that's all good and well, but it's going really thin now because both are moving at the same time. So I'm going to make one half as thin, and I'm going to hit Option and Shift to make this bipolar. So now it's going to operate both sides of the central point. So if you look in the matrix here, LFO2, you can just choose that. That'll make it unipolar or bipolar as well. And I'm going to reverse this actually as well. So bring that down. So it goes the opposite way. Now, with doing this, we need to make a central point. This is now like sort of drifting all over. So we're going to add in the third oscillator. And we're going to make sure on filter 1 that we've got that cent as well. So C is included. These are all 7. I'm going to make 3 voices here. I'm going to jump into the unison settings, switch this to super, and I'm going to bring the width down so it shrinks it more to the middle. So we now have a constant source of sound whilst the other two move around, so we get something nice and central. So that's creating some nice movement there, and you can tweak that to your heart's content and use different settings and things like that. It's all up to you. Now, jumping into the effects, we can saturate this with more reverb. So for example, if we push this whole reverb a little bit harder, we're going to get a smoother sound. And that sounds really nice. But what we can do as well here is use a variety of effects. So we could use a phaser that's going to naturally shift things around. Let's set this to, say, 4 bars. Let's bring the feedback down a bit. So you get a bit of extra movement on the top there. Let's bring it to about 50%, so we've got a best of both worlds. Let's have it affecting the higher frequencies a little bit more. You've got a bit of movement there. We can use the flanger in here. Same sort of thing. Could use BPM, 4 bars, a bit less depth. And just have that teetering around in the background. And if you really want to push the boat out, we could use this Lorenz here, let's say the x-axis, and just make it phase in the mix a little bit here and there, so it gets a bit more intense and a bit less intense. It just evokes a little bit of natural movement. So the final tip here is to simulate a little bit of analog drift, and this is probably my favourite part. There's many ways you can do this, but we can jump into the effects, pick out the new bode effect, make sure it's at the end of the chain. So if you put it at the beginning, it is going to sort of affect the signal, and then everything else is going to come after it and not be affected. So to include the reverb and the flanges and everything, bring it to the end if that's what you want. And all we're going to use on this bode here, you can see, let's see at the bottom here, if we use this blur function, can you hear that it sort of adds a little bit of a weird tape sort of shift? That's what we're going to use. Very simple, very easy, and very effective. So we're going to use, let's just use this same one. It's moving slow enough, 0.08 hertz. Use the x-axis. So I like the frequency of this, it works well, but if you wanted something a little bit more consistent, you can see mono's not switched on. Switch that on, it'll just continue circling that pattern no matter what notes are being pressed, it will never re-trigger. So you can see once this comes back around here, if it will go around to the other side, you can just hear there's a little bit of warping in the pitch, just ever so slight. If you want it more intense, send the blur a bit further, use a bit of a faster speed, and you'll get that weird sort of like the record is not quite playing correctly on your set. So that works really nice. I do like that one. That's probably my favourite thing to do with pads, to give it that nice realistic feeling. And then you can attach these, so if you don't want it on every preset, you might not want it in every track, shall we say, you can just jump into that matrix there, and we can say bode blur here. We can say this one controls that, so now there's no tape blur until you turn that up, and then that mixes an amount of it in, and you can call that blur amount. And the same with the effects. Let's just say you don't want that phaser in there the whole time. You can go, let's just click that so we can see it. We can go to phaser, and we can turn this down, leave it turning up to just over 50%, and we can add that mix in. phaser mix. You could even push it further so it goes to 100%, so then the user's got a bit of control over how much there is. But the beauty of this is you can control multiple things. So we can say the flange, and let's just say we never want it to go past, say, 40%. We can call this movement. And we can turn them off at predetermined levels. So there we are. That is how to add a little bit more movement into your pads. Very simple stuff. If there's anything you want to share, let me know down in the comments. It'll be handy for everyone else to see those so they can get better at making pads and understanding how we can create a more humanized feel, but in electronic music. So with that said, thank you very much for watching. I'll look forward to seeing you all in the next video. Take care.